Hello everyone.
Hi. Okay, so today's the second part of our analyzing. Oh, sorry. So today's the second part of our analyzing Cascadeur roadmap, and we'll talk. The last time we talked about all the features that will be in the 2022.1 early access version, which is somewhere early in the next year, obviously. As of now, the plan is the first quarter, but yeah, we'll see. But I hope we'll make it. And today we'll look at 2022.2 early access and the possible next features in the next early access or other. Oh, sorry, versions. Evernote is attacking me. Okay, so. Let's start. And we'll start with, yeah, by the way, maybe you can write hi into the chat, and so I can just see that you can actually hear me and everything is well. Okay, yeah, thank you. Feel much better now. So let's start with the first feature, and it's parent switching. And what does this actually mean? It's basically a pretty standard thing, and sometimes this is done via constraints in other 3D software. So what does this? What do you use this for? And what does this mean? This means that you have the ability to dynamically switch the parent of some object. Usually this is used for props. For example, you have a sword and you want the sword to be in the right hand of the character and then in the left hand of the character, and then he throws the sword and the sword is in the global space, and then he puts the sword on his back, and that means that the sword has to go to child to his back, and he runs and the sword is there. So and that's the idea of the feature. I think I can just demonstrate it a bit with probably with this sword, for example. It's like pretty obvious that you want I don't know, this sword. Let me turn to FK so you can see what currently is its parent, and go to autoposing to just edit the pose a little, because sorry, I'm not an aimer, and if I edit it myself it won't look that good. So right now it's the sword's parent is its left hand, and I might want so yeah, and that actually applies to the interpolation as well. So if I put a key here, for example, and somehow change, oh sorry about that, change the position of the object and tell it to interpolate, and right now it kind of works okay because it's FK because it's IK both on the hand and the sword, but you can see right now if I turn FK to the arms of the character, the arm will interpolate in one way and the sword in another. But if I turn, it's because right now the sword is interpolated in IK, but if I put FK on the sword and you switch it right now, you switch it here, then it will stick to the arm, and sorry, not the arm, the hand. However, the hand goes, however it behaves in the interpolation, the sword will actually follow. So, but the problem is you can't. You have to go to the rigging mode and you can switch the parent in the rigging mode. But if you want, if you want it to be shielded to one hand on like a part of your animation, and you want to be shielded to the other hand on the other part of the animation, then you have a problem. You can't do that. You have to copy and paste the interval, etc. So that's currently a limitation. And what we will do is we will give the ability to basically select the sword, and as of now the plan is here in the property editor. You will be able to you'll have a enumeration. I don't know if you know what this is, but it will look something like this, and then you have several options of the parent you want to be active in this interval, and you can select the parent, and it will act as if it's a child to this concrete parent object. So yeah, and I see there are some questions in the chat right now. I think I can answer them, and then we'll go back. Oh, actually, Ilya, who's here with me, he already answered them. Okay, Peter, about the Pro plan. Yeah, I think I won't be able to help right now on the stream, but please write, and probably we'll ask in direct messages to send the print screens, and we'll investigate, and we'll need the email, and we'll certainly investigate why this can be done. It should be working. Will you be showing a workflow for Cascadeur in Blender? No, not today. So today we'll go through the roadmap, through the other part of the roadmap, but yeah, and I kind of I know that this is not the most popular thing, the thing that interests people the most. So yeah, and but I'll address this. For layered animation, I don't think it was. I'm not sure it was asked, so I'll go through that. And actually, it's a question: what do you mean by layered animation? So I think we can actually kind of finish it here, and then I'll go and answer the question about layers in animation. And yeah, so I think it's more or less understandable what the parent switching means by now. Then you can parent your any of your objects to any of the other parts of the body, other controllers you have, and probably it will work like this, that in the rigging mode you can set up what possible options there are. So if there isn't an option you need right now, you can go to rigging mode, add this option, and then you will be able to somewhere here select between all the parents. For example, this sword will have like a left hand, right hand, and the back, and you can select it here, and then you turn on FK, and it will behave based on the option there is right now. I actually prepared a little scene where I want to show how this will work. Like part of the stuff, the technical stuff is down below is already working. What we don't have right now is this dynamic settings that we can change, and then we have to implement it in the rig. But like the technology that this is based on, well, it's obviously working because switching between IK and FK, which is already possible as we've seen, it's already working. But now we have to extend it to other to support multiple parents. Okay, so let me show a small example here. And I'm kind of understanding that it's a bit, maybe it's a bit technical, but yeah, I think this will be like the last stream on the roadmap and on the technical issues. So let's still see it. So what do we do here? What do we have here? I prepared this scene to show you that, suppose this is a child point, and then there is a parent point 1 and parent point 2. Right now the child point is on this animation track, on the first animation track, and parent points 1 and 2 are respectively on these two animation tracks. So if I put just a step interpolation, then here on this interval the child point is just it's in IK mode, and so it just stands where it is, and here on this frame it moves here between these two parent points, and right now you can see that it is using FK interpolation on both of these intervals, but on this interval it is shielded, and I've kind of hacked it here, just used the two settings we have right now on the tracks. It's FK and IK setting, it's one setting, and the second one is like fixed or not fixed. So this is shortcut Alt plus R, and it turns on and off this fixation setting. And I just in the rig I binded the logic that if it's fixed, then it is shielded to parent point 1, and if it's not fixed, it will be shielded to the parent point 2. And so what does this mean, and how it behaves? So if it is fixed, then it follows the first parent trajectory, and now it is when it's like when there's the setting Alt R is off, then it follows the other point, the parent point 2 trajectory, and you can see how it basically moves along with it. And yeah, and actually what's interesting in Cascadeur is that if I turn on interpolation and look at the trajectory, it will the tangents, like the curve that you will see as the trajectory of how this point interpolates, it will be smooth, and this is because the tangents are automatically how do you call it, straightened, so the curve is automatically smoothed, so it will the IK interpolation here, the IK interpolation just changes to suit what the FK on this interval wants, and the FK on the next interval suits what FK on this interval wants. So the interpolation is smooth, and yeah. So I think that basically this is the idea of the new feature, and yeah, just wanted to demonstrate that part of the feature is already working, but we still have a lot to do. You have to make the settings, and you have to support it in the rig, because making it here with the dots is really easy, but the rig is pretty complicated, so it's quite hard to support it there. Now let me answer the questions. I'm pretty sure this has been asked before, probably on last stream, but what are the plans for layered animation? By layered animation, you probably mean additive layers, where you have some animation and you add on top of it some other animation, like the character is walking, for example, and then you on top of it, I don't know, add an animation where the character bends to one side and then he is walking and also bending to one side. So this is like a hard question actually, in the sense that yeah, the current architecture and partially the architecture that lets us automatically smoothen between the tangents when objects are in different spaces, it does not combine that easily with adding layered animation. So we're recalculating the IKs and the IK and FK data and so on. I think that in some way we will add it sooner or later, but probably an easier road for us is to create some tools that will solve the same problem maybe a bit differently. But I actually have a question too. What, like, are there any specific plans? For example, you want to mix two animations together, or what are for what purpose? Would you like to have additive layers? Okay. I think if there will be any comments on that, before them I'll answer the next question. You have AI algorithms in plans that would try to guess the next pose for the character. Would you need to connect to the dedicated servers to use this feature, or it's done inside the program? Okay, AI algorithms. Actually, I'm not very familiar with the plans of trying to guess the next pose. I don't know. Maybe I've said something confusing or something like that. But or is this plan? Is it on the? Is it here on the roadmap, or this was? Oh, auto interpolation. Yeah, okay. I think we'll get to that one. Okay, editing multiple loops. So about the animation layers, editing multiple loops from the same mockup animation. That sounds more like... maybe I've misunderstood the question, because that sounds more like you want just... I heard them called takes. Like, you want different animations in one file. Will that be okay? Because that's much simpler to implement. Oh yeah, okay, I see. Yeah, no, those are additive animation layers. Like if a character has an idle or a walk cycle and you want to add a mood to it, that is animation layers, and yeah, I think we'll have to address it somehow. But we kind of have that in to be announced table, and let me answer the auto interpolation. So yeah, the idea of auto interpolation tool, we actually made some tests for it, and they were nice, but they were not as cool to kind of swap and concentrate on this one. The idea was that if you're creating some animation, and yeah, it will work only with humanoids, this auto interpolation tool, it won't predict the next pose, or at least it won't predict poses outside of the animation, but inside the animation, if you have some keyframes, it will predict what tangents you want in these frames. So right now this is actually done automatically, and there are different ways. Like, you know, if you put linear, the tangents will be like pretty strict. It will be a linear interpolation. And if you put viscous clamp, Bezier, they're all have, so these three types, they're just different ways of calculating the tangents. And here we wanted the AI to calculate the tangents, and yeah, and it actually did calculate nicer than like automatic prediction, but still it's really hard to, like, if it's working in one space, for example the IK space, and it's working with global positions, it will kind of imitate the FK space if the character is you know, doing a flip, for example, or okay, let me open a clear character. Suppose I want the character to kind of rotate. Okay, I'll make the pose a bit more compact, but suppose I wanted to rotate. And I'll just copy this pose. And if I turn on standard IK interpolation, it will, actually I've put too many poses, too many keys, but it's working not that bad. But you can still see how it like the hands are inside the body, and that's because it's using basically IK interpolation. So it's squishes and squashes, and doesn't behave as we would like it to be. And you can just turn on FK and it will rotate smoothly. And the hands won't go inside of the body, etc. Because in the FK space it's pretty much constant, and in the IK space it's it changes a lot. So yeah, and one of the things we thought that would be cool to do for an AI neural network is to predict what the user wants here, an FK or an IK, but it's probably not that easy, and yeah, we haven't invested too much time into learning this, but into researching this. But I think that it would be a more interesting feature than actually the auto tangent system we created first. Although that might work at some point of the timeline too. But I just want to answer why this is in the TBA table. That's because actually we decided to kind of concentrate on what we have and make those tools nicer. So yeah. Okay. Let's see what we have. You can add additional detail to the existing animation using interrelated mode, but it's done in a destructive manner, and you'd have to Ctrl Z all the way back to the base animation if it isn't working. Perhaps you can take a feature of adding animation snapshots, like it's being done with go to original pose, but you can create another version of an animation and go back to it later. There's a round method for snapshots, having multiple files opened once. That's what I'm doing right now. I see, yeah. Like, I totally agree. Snapshots would be a nice workaround, and it's much easier to implement in our case. So kind of you load an animation, you press a button and creates a snapshot, and the snapshot is stored somewhere, and you can kind of press this snapshot and say, okay, on this part of the timeline, go back to the snapshot. Yeah, that's a really nice idea. I actually love this stream. We're kind of inventing new stuff. Do you guys plan on connecting Cascadeur with Unreal Engine via LiveLink for real-time previews, something like Icon have at the moment? To be honest, I didn't research what Icon has right now. It is in the plans, not in the next half a year, and we'll get to the USD support, and I have some ideas connected with that. Okay, another question. When using FK, I sometimes have trouble with limbs rotating on one axis most of the way to a pose, then moving on other axis. It's something like Maya. In something like Maya, I'd edit the rotate order to solve the problem, but I don't know how to do that in Cascadeur. Yeah, but we actually don't have a rotate order. We're using a more like the interpolation, the FK interpolation. It's I'd say more complex, although Euler angles are not something easy at all, and they are, in my opinion, even counterintuitive, and they have gimbal locks, and we're using something that won't cause gimbal locks ever, so you don't have to like create an extra layer of controllers and think about Euler angles and how they actually work. And but everything comes at a price, and ours is not there is some stuff that is not as intuitive in Cascadeur 2, but yeah, if you have that scene, by the way, can you send it so we can I'll research it later and maybe understand what can be done. Okay. What part of the body does that problem occur with? Okay, thank you. Just in case, I'll as I think there are not so many people from the arms. Okay, I think we can like use part of the time to kind of do a little research on how the FK space. I don't know if you're familiar with the word space I'm using here. It's like a bit from a mathematical background. So yeah. Let's look a bit at what are the FK space we're working with. Arm pulled back and swing it forward. Was it like through the upper part of the body, or? Maybe you've rotated it more than 180 degrees, and then yeah, it can be not as good. Okay, everywhere. Yeah, so it's probably doing something like this. You could say that, yeah, right now it's not, it's probably not the, it's hard to say if it's the expected way or not. Probably not ideal too, so. By the way, I want to see this trajectory as it is. So it usually, it basically goes down through the shortest road, but if it's close to 180 degrees, then it's not like setting the road as good as it should. It doesn't know how to go. Although here you can actually see some artifacts that are from using it in this in the space we are right now. Okay, so just wanted to give a bit of in-depth information on the local spaces. Let's open Graph Editor here. Okay, so one thing we have is a twist. I think it's really small right now. Let's make it larger. Oh, I guess that's not the latest version, as it is totally in radians, not in the degrees. But you can see here the twist. Basically, like it's an angle that shows how this additional point is rotated around the main direction that is defined by the main point and the directional point. Yeah, that would conflict with big motions. Well, I mean, if you have like a very low keyframe and you want, for example, it will conflict if you have a wheel, a car wheel. Sorry, I don't see. Yeah, I think my hands can be seen. So you have a car wheel and you want to rotate it like I don't know, 1,000 degrees. Then this will conflict, and this point controller rig is not used for that. And like usually when you're animating characters, you would keep your keyframes pretty close, and when you're animating like cars or maybe even something else that is like not very character-like, then the plan is, for example, you have a prop, then you certainly want it to be in point controller rig, but you want also to rotate really fast at some point of time. And yeah, for that we do plan a solution that can be used in internally. We kind of had that problem with stuff that had to rotate really fast, and we have some filtering, automatic filtering, Euler angle filtering enabled inside, but you can kind of turn that off, and then you will be able to rotate as much as you want, and it won't try to pick the shortest road. It will just interpolate this angle, and that's all. Yeah, so okay, I'll just be really fast about this. The local coordinate system we're using, so it's pitch and roll, and oh, that looks like a problem actually. Let me kind of rotate it. So there are two like float numbers here. One is pitch and the other one is roll. I actually wanted to make a Twitter post about this system. It's like it's called a dipole coordinate system. We're using it right now, and it's kind of more understandable than the sphere interpolation we used before, and it also basically doesn't have special points, singular points, or you can say just gimbal locks, unless you go all the way like 180 degrees around and stuff your hand in your arm, but you don't do that in character parts. Okay, and then yeah, for like an ankle, as an FK data, you have this angle that it's bent with, so it's a pretty easy data to, I don't know, understand and interpolate. Okay. So, what are you going to add? When are you going to add an option to export a video sequence from multiple viewports? Uh, to be honest, we didn't think about that for now. But does that mean you wanna like export just what is on your basically what is on your screen, or you want to export like to different files? Do you want to export this two viewports to one file or to separate files? And when you will be able to create more than two viewports, that will be included in the window docking system. So it's 2022.2. Multiple viewports on one screen record one video. We haven't thought a lot about that. I wonder when do you need that? It probably... Yeah, but it's like... it's a bit vague when we want to like what features we should implement and what we shouldn't, because for example then like these external programs, they can let you edit the video a bit, and if we want to do that like that's a lot of work. I'd say that we could think, and I think in some, at least in the question polls that we were planning about new features, for example, a feature that you could render your whole Cascadeur screen, that wouldn't be hard, like that can be done. But if you wanna like edit and other stuff, edit the video or do anything else with it, I think that won't be the focus. Okay, I see, yeah. I think like recording the whole screen should be kind of awkward. Okay, I see. Okay, we'll add it to the feature list. Okay, so by the way, we're kind of smoothly going into the next feature, window docking system. But this one is actually pretty understandable, and I've opened what I'm familiar with. Like, sorry about that, I'm a programmer, so yeah. I've opened this. Did I press open file? Visual Studio to kind of show what we want to do. So it's pretty basic. It's in a lot of programs. If you've seen Unity, it has something like that too. So it's a docking system where you can drag something off and put it somewhere else, or put it outside of the program and then use it as a separate window. Yeah. So what we want to let you do is to kind of grab this one, drag it out, and put it to the right side, or put it at the bottom, or drag your timeline and put it on the other screen. And what we also want to allow is to drag your viewport and put it on the other screen in a separate window. So yeah. Then with this feature, I think the viewports will also be possible. Okay. So it's about flashing the screens. Let's move forward to autoposing. Autoposing tool. Autopose and animation tool support. Well, what this means is that right now in autoposing mode, if you go to autoposing, you're actually pretty limited. You're like you can do a lot with the, and the current autoposing works pretty good, and it will work even better in the next version. But what you can't do is, for example, if you go here and even if you put a key yourself, but for example, automatically creating keys doesn't work right now with it, so that's already bad. But if you want to use the twin machine and somehow get your point closer to the next or the previous frame, it simply doesn't work with autoposing. And the same goes, for example, for interpolated mode. You can't drag your hand up in all the frames while you're in autoposing, just drags in this frame, whilst if you go to point controller you can drag it all on the whole timeline. So yeah, what I meant by this task, by this feature on the roadmap, is that by that time all the tools basically that work with standard with the standard rig, with the standard controllers, they should be working with autoposing controllers. Okay. By the way, if there are any questions, then yeah, I would be glad to answer them. If there are any new questions. Okay. Let's go on then. Balance controller in Autophysics. Doesn't have any description, didn't make it yet, but I think I have to write some. But what does it mean? Actually, right now we're inside our physics tools. We're working with a kind of simplified model where we combine all the properties of the rigid bodies. We kind of calculate some general properties of the motion and work with them. Thank you guys. Balance controller is something that is actually very widely used for robotics, and it works with the model explicitly with the rigid bodies. It works with the hierarchical structure of the rigid bodies. Let me just get it a bit more clean. So it works with the model close to this one. So these are the rigid bodies, and they're usually this ellipsoid that you can see, it demonstrates the moment of inertia of the rigid body, and so it's defined right now by its rotations, principal moments of inertia. And what balance controller will be able to do is it will be able to change the pose of the character in such a way that it will change the poses and try to achieve physical realism. And our current hope that it will and like the current research we've done shows that it will help us a lot with creating tools that will allow for compensation, for working with rotational part of the animation better. It will allow the character to use its hands to compensate, so etc. So something like that. Okay, and I actually have some demonstrations of the tests we're doing with balance controller. So this is what it will look like. But these are of course like the first tests. You can see how he raises his hands, for example, his arms, and that's actually probably not something you want to do, but we'll plan to combine it with the autophysics we have right now, so it doesn't do unnecessary motions, but you can see how the pose is changed, and that is a good thing. And it's not as stable as we would like it to be, so if it changes too much right now, it can't handle it and kind of breaks down. So we're working on it. Just want to show you something like in progress. Okay, I've been having trouble importing FBX I export from Unity using uMotion. Then they want to import into Cascadeur. I think this might be because the file clips, when exported via uMotion, is there, or will be a way to pick the clip I import to Cascadeur or something like that. uMotion. I'm afraid I won't be able to answer right now, as I don't know what uMotion does, but if it's an FBX file, then certainly that's a bug on our side, and if you can, please send the FBX file to us and we'll have a look at it and try to fix it. That would be really, really helpful. Something's going on with the live feed. Okay. Actually, it's stuck on the computer I'm checking. Does it work right now? Ilya, by the way, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, and I didn't see any interruption of translation. Let me check once again.
Yeah, but it got interrupted. I'm kind of I'm watching my own stream on the other computer on the back, and it got interrupted there too. So I reloaded the page, and now it seems to be
But
good.
log says that there were no any interruption. Maybe some kind of bug on YouTube.
Okay, so let's go further. Thank you, older devs, for sending the file. So we're basically done with this tab, with this column. So let's move on to the next column and the possible next features. macOS support. Yeah, we plan. Actually, not much is separating us from the macOS support, but unfortunately, we're slowly moving into that direction. And the main problem we had is that we used OpenGL 3.3 compatibility mode, and OpenGL has compatibility in core modes, and we were using the compatibility mode, and it is not supported on macOS, and we're right now moving on OpenGL 3.3 core mode, and we're pretty close to it, and after that we'll try to compile it for macOS. There probably will be some other small problems, but I think they're easily can be overcome. So I think it's like we're getting there. Then here's the other features left. They are the smallest of them is the USD support, and this is a new format. You've probably heard about it. It's Pixar USD Universal Send Description, Yeah, so from what we did a really small research on this, and as far as we know right now, it's much easier to support than FBX, because FBX is like we started supporting FBX like I think like 2 years ago, like almost at the start of the closed beta test, but we're still having some, or maybe even more, maybe even 3 years ago, and we used it internally, but there are so many different stuff. There's so many different stuff that can go in, like wrong with the FBX format, and it's used in variety of ways, and we're still having like bugs, and even on this stream there's a report that there are some FBX files that are not getting loaded. So it's like a work that will never be finished fully, as kind of I'm afraid that we'll have to make it better and better all the time. But USD, yeah, we've heard it's more straightforward, and also this is used as this is a format that is used in the API of NVIDIA Omniverse, and that's one more pro for supporting the universal scene format to be able to connect to the Omniverse. And I was thinking that maybe connecting via the Omniverse will kind of create a live link, but if that won't be enough, then maybe we'll have to create a real live link for Unreal and Unity. How many people on our team use Mac every day? Well, obviously it's kind of 0 people. Like it doesn't compile on Mac. So yeah, and all the animators that are like in using Cascadeur internally in Nike, they all use Windows. So yeah, not many Mac users in here, although inside Nike and Banzai, if we count like the whole company, there is Mac usage, of course, as we're creating games for iOS devices, so we need Mac and people that will compile via Mac, etc. So yeah. Is it possible to activate physics in Cascadeur, for example, placing a cube higher in the scene, letting it fall down, baking down, or let a character do ragdoll? No, not right now, although and our current secondary motion is not done via ragdoll, so you can't do that. But we have some plans on implementing stuff like that, and it will also allow to use passive object physical simulation to like have character, I don't know, some weapons that are like let character take chains in their arms and kind of move them, and the chains will automatically be animated via secondary motion. That for that we would need something like a ragdoll, so we have it in the plans. Will we consider incorporating other forms like alembic, motion capture, wavefront? Maybe at some point in the future when we will have like resources to do this, and this really like depends on the kind of the format, because for example USD and FBX, they both are formats that you have a in case of FBX I would say pretty good. In case of USD, haven't worked with it yet, but I heard it's better. A library that you can basically include into the project and use it, and it has an API, good documentation. I don't know if those formats have them. And the kind of motion capture format, pretty close to what Cascadeur does. Alembic, I'd say that's not the aim of the Cascadeur. Maybe there are some ways I don't know of how you could use Cascadeur and Alembic, but wavefront, obj, it's for meshes only, so you can't currently skin in Cascadeur, so it won't help a lot. And by the way, here we're left with this three features that are kind of interconnected. And by the way, if we're going from top to down, I think we should go with blend shapes at first. And yeah, I don't know, probably I don't have to explain too much about what blend shapes are, but it's the ability to control the mesh. And there are kind of two ways we could support blend shapes. One way is that you can import blend shapes from some other program, so they're already ready, and usually they kind of for example, they're used for creating facial rigs, and you basically by hand you create for example an eyelid animation of how the eye closes and opens, and you have these two states where it's closed and opened, of course for each eye independently, and then you can blend between those two states, and then you create a controller that actually you put it down and put it up, and it blends this value, and you animate by this how the character is closing eyes or opening his eyes. And if we're first thing I think we should do is to be able to simply import these blend shapes from the other software. You won't be able to change how the vertices in this two states are located, but you will be able to use them, change them, animate them, and then the second thing we should add is basically modifying and creating new blend shapes, and that is really closely connected to skinning, because that means you have to create an ability for the user to actually select the points, the vertices of the mesh, and edit them directly, and that is also connected to skinning, so you want to be able to automatically skin these points to the joints, and with a brush change the skinning weights. So yeah, these two are connected in this way. And the facial rig, I just have a small screenshot what I'm talking about, to just show what I'm talking about. It's a facial rig that you can create the controllers, and then via these controllers you control. Sometimes you control some of the joints that are that the mesh of the character is skinned to, and sometimes you control these blend shapes. And so this can also be done in two steps. And what I after we will release this Python script in rigging customization, you will be able to create some custom controllers with your own hands and make them look and work as you want. I don't know how popular that will be, maybe not that popular, but by this facial rig feature, what we mean is that we will create like we have our rigging system for the main character. In the same way, you will be able to, oh yeah, you'll be able to create rig for create the facial rig, and actually you'll be able to do it via the quick rigging tool. So it's kind of not only like providing tools with which you will be able to create rig, but a facial rig, but you will have to go down into the details, but actually try to do it really automatically out of the box. And that's like a larger feature to do. And maybe if this will be really needed even without the blend shapes, we can do that without blend shapes and then add blend shapes and add them to the rig. Okay, so let me answer the questions, and then maybe we can have a final look at some of these features, and then we'll call it a day. Okay. In Cascadeur plugin to integrate universal send description format, use the technology at its core. I'm afraid I didn't understand the question. Like, IOT. Maybe I don't know what IOT means, and that's why I can't understand it. But for Cascadeur, like USD, they provide a library, an open source library that you can take. It's a C++ library, and Cascadeur is written in C++, so it's no problem. You can take this library and you can use it API to. It kind of provides you with some structures that you can tell it, read the file, and it gives you. I'm really simplifying things, but you can tell it, read this file, and it will give you the information in this file that is already in some loaded, structured. It's like some kind of C++ structures, and then we have to like read this information and read, for example, read the skeleton structure and load the local rotations, translations, and scale that are in the animation, and then we have to apply it to the Cascadeur, to the rig you have in the scene. If you're, for example, loading animation, or you read the whole structure and create the joints and add the animation. And I was asking if Cascadeur plans to utilize USD format as an import option, import or export. Well, like obviously supporting a USD format. What I mean by supporting the USD format is that you can open USD files and save USD files. But maybe you're talking about, the USD. They have probably what we will do is like open a file, like import it and export a file. But we probably won't support their, like, there are some interconnections between the scenes, and USD is really good at it to kind of float only a part of the scene, but probably like that's not what we will be aiming for. Don't know if I understand the question correctly, so but yeah. Are there any plans to support FBX clips, either importing or exporting? For example, if I have an FBX with multiple clips in it, can I pick one to import? Yeah, I think we will support that at some point of the timeline. That sounds kind of pretty standard functionality. Maybe if we will have this, what we were talking about, like this takes, this library of saved poses, maybe then we will open FBX clip and like load them all into this takes, and then you can reset to any of them. Okay, thank you. Okay, we already talked about Interpolation, external 3D graphics engine. Well, after going after going to OpenGL 3.3 core, we want to move to currently want to move to the BugFX, and that is a pretty low level render library, but it's cross-platform at least, so it uses Metal on macOS, and I think it supports Vulkan, where Vulkan can be run, and etc. So you don't have to like support some specific format, and it's a bit more high level than OpenGL. Is that text system on the roadmap? Sorry, maybe I'm kind of in a bad shape already. It's even here. What does it mean? Text system on the roadmap? Ah, it's the text system. Oh, I see. No, it isn't on the road. You could say that additive layers are on the load. Are on the roadmap, but we didn't think too much about them. But I think we actually progressed further today with the idea of how we could implement something close to additive layers. So they're kind of on the roadmap. The functionality is kind of there, although it doesn't sound the same as this animation clip. So yeah, I think we'll add them to the roadmap, and after we kind of work out how they have to look. Okay, physics tools that changes poses in animation. This is actually connected to balance controller. So yeah, maybe we'll have to remove this one. I think it was written way before. Although there was an idea that AI will be doing some stuff, so AI will be kind of helping the physics solver, but yeah, but I think this one can be more or less removed, and I don't know if I can put some flag on it to look through it, read through it later and do it. Okay, I think I'll just archive it for now and look at it later if there's something valuable there. Timeline for select objects. So that's an idea that we had for some time now, that sometimes the timeline, it has too many layers and you can kind of get lost in them. So one of the things we could do is create a timeline that would work like, you know, a standard Maya timeline, that you select some objects and then you kind of see the track, only the track that the select objects are contained in. And maybe we can kind of merge that track or show them as a folder. There are different ideas on how to do that, but it doesn't seem like it's like so it's not a first priority thing. Additive layers, I think they are, we've talked about them already. They're covered. Passive object physical simulation, well, we kind of talked about it, but yeah, we're planning to change the secondary animation and make it redder, and we'll have a ragdoll in it, and with time we will, I hope, evolve it in a system that will support passive objects physical simulation, so you can have different chains and ropes to follow, to simulate and like create animation via this ragdoll simulation for this type of objects. Contact points. Yeah, so we're getting asked a lot about this actually, and contact points is kind of an evolution of our autophysics system. And currently autophysics, basically it's one character, you can put anything in its hands, but it can it can contact and interact only with the ground, and that's a lot of limitations, obviously. And what we want by contact point is that you can put some objects in the scene. First thing we want is that you can put some objects in the scene, and then the character will contact them, and this objects will work like as fulcrum points for the character. That's one thing. And the second thing is that if you have two characters and they come in contact with each other, for example, they jump and then they hit each other, then we will automatically calculate that, okay, in this frames they contact each other, so the system will take that into account. But I'd say it's like in pretty early development stage. Right now we concentrate more on making the tool that we have more making the tool that we have better and more automatic and working with any like animation you give it. Okay, and pose library, well, this is pretty obvious that it's a pose library, but just we were asked so many times that we put it here on the roadmap, although it's not such a big feature, but it's a library where you can select the poses, you can see them, you can search through them via text search field, and then you can apply the pose you want. Okay. So I think we're more or less done with this. And if there are any questions, yeah, we'll try to do the pose library. And what we want to do is to give. It's actually not here on the roadmap, although I think we should add it at least to the data column. What we want to do is to actually give the ability to write plugins using the QML, so you can via Python like create windows, create buttons, and so on, and like maybe somebody wants their own pose library or create some other tweaks. So if there are no questions right now, I think we can go on to the one last thing I wanted to discuss with you guys today, and that is we had this question. How do you call it? Okay, so we were asking about what kind of stuff would you like to see on the stream, and I'm showing the results here. Yeah, I myself voted for the technical features because that's what I can talk about a lot. You probably kind of already guessed that. Yeah, I can tell about the about the IK space, word space, FK spaces we're using, how they're connected, what they mean, dipole, and other hardcore math stuff. But as we see, this is the less popular thing. The least popular thing, sorry. So the most popular thing is showing how some pipelines work, like Blender, Cascadeur, Unity. The second one is animation workflow, and the third is discussing the tutorial with deep learning. I think it's a typo here, but deeper. So what we'll do in the future, we're planning to do what people want, and that's the pipeline of using Blender, then Cascadeur, and then Unity. And it will be done by Andrei. I'm not sure about the next Thursday, but I think we'll try to fit it into the next Thursday. But if not, it will be Thursday after that, if it's not too close to New Year. Yeah, and we'll probably try it in a way that I'll be there. We'll have several people, as our English is not that great, and we'll try to fill in the gaps by having several of us talking about it, commenting, asking questions, and etc. And then the animation workflow, we have some plans on that as well. We have Evgeny and Lena, who are really good at creating animations on the go, so we plan to do that as well. And yeah, and then do some about deep learning, and maybe in a month or month and a half I'll come back with some more technical features. I don't know, maybe it's FK interpolation, maybe I'll have something else to show by then, by that time. So Unreal Engine, yeah, sure. I think it's not only Blender, Cascadeur, Unity, it will be like I don't know, Maya, Cascadeur, Unreal Engine, and DAZ 3D or Character Creator or something like that. Yeah, it will be different pipelines and integrations. We will research them, test them out, see how it all works. For some we already know and tested it, for some not, and then get on the stream and show you mockup, Unity, Cascadeur. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, maybe we can do some streams with you, so you can show how you work with it, and that would be really cool. Or maybe you can describe to us how you do it, and then we can try to reproduce it ourselves. So I think that's basically it for today. Thanks a lot, guys, for coming. Yeah, I know this is not like the most popular thing, but I'm really glad somebody's interested in the technical stuff. I'm really glad you came and asked a lot of really nice questions, and actually we even like connected some stuff together, and with the animation clips, takes, and layers, like I have a better understanding myself right now. So thank you very much for coming, and I think we can wrap it up for today.
Yep, thank you very much for you all guys, and check our news because of next week. I suppose that in Tuesday or Wednesday we will announce this strip regarding pipeline. So there will be link and other things, and we will wait for your questions as what we need to show on the stream. Thank you once again. Bye.
Okay, bye. Elia, you will turn the stream off, yes?